Welcome back, everybody, to the deep dive. This time, we're going deep on a pretty fascinating case surrounding Reliance Telecom.
Yeah.
Specifically, we want to figure out what happened to all the subscriber refunds
Right.
and those big regulatory fines when the company basically went kaput.
Mm.
And we've got a whole stack of legal documents and news articles here to help us kind of like unravel this whole thing.
It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and it's more than just like boring legal stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
This is about like millions of subscribers.
Right.
And like their money.
Exactly. It's about the human impact.
Yeah, exactly.
This isn't just some abstract legal case.
No.
This is people's lives.
Right.
Their hard-earned money.
Exactly.
You know what happened to it.
Yeah. So we're going to try to break it all down.
All right.
Like all the arguments and like the decisions that were made and what it all means for everybody else.
I think this is going to be a really insightful deep dive.
I think so too. So let's kind of set the stage here.
Okay.
Reliance Communications, or RCOM, they were like a big deal in the Indian telecom market.
Huge player.
Yeah.
For a long time.
But then like around 2019, they hit some really rough financial times.
Yeah, they really struggled.
Yeah, and they had to enter this thing called the Corporate Insolvency Resolution Process.
Right, the CREP.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a last-ditch effort to salvage the company.
Right, and that's when the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, or TRAI, stepped in and was like, hold on a second.
There's some stuff we need to sort out here.
There's some loose ends.
Right.
Yeah.
They were looking out for the subscribers,
Exactly.
making sure their interests were represented.
Yeah, so TRAI had basically two big concerns.
Okay.
First off, there were all these unpaid balances.
Right.
And security deposits from Reliance's subscribers.
Both prepaid and postpaid.
Yeah, both like if you were prepaid or postpaid, there was potentially a lot of money just kind of like sitting there.
Yeah, in limbo.
Yeah.
Just hanging out there.
And then on top of that, there's this massive regulatory fine.
Oh, yeah.
Like hanging over Reliance's head.
Huge.
Over 85 lakh.
Wow.
Slapped on him by TRA back in 2017.
I remember that.
Yeah, for basically not meeting quality of service standards.
Right. They weren't delivering the service they promised.
Exactly. So TRA looked at all this and was basically like,
this isn't right.
Yeah. They didn't want these amounts to just like disappear during the insolvency proceeding.
They wanted to make sure those subscribers got their money back.
Exactly. They wanted to be fair to the subscribers.
And hold Reliance accountable.
Yeah, and uphold their own authority as a regulator.
Right.
So they took their concerns to the National Company Law Tribunal.
The NCLT.
Yeah.
The big court for these kinds of things.
Right. And basically they were like,
hey, NCLT, you need to factor these amounts into the resolution plan.
When you're figuring out who gets paid what from whatever assets Reliance has left.
You can't just ignore this money.
Right. And it seems pretty reasonable.
Right. It does seem fair on the surface.
Yeah, but
there's always a but.
There's always a but.
Right.
Yeah. And that's when things got kind of tricky.
Oh, boy.
The NCLT made a decision that put all that subscriber money in a really weird spot.
What'd they do?
They categorized both those subscriber dues and the TRAI penalty as operational debt.
Operational debt.
Yeah.
So that's where we need to like break down this whole operational debt concept.
Yeah, because it's like crucial to understanding what happened next.
Absolutely.
Okay, so imagine a company.
Okay.
Like a big building.
Right.
And each floor of the building represents the different type of debt.
Okay, I like this analogy.
At the very top, you've got like the penthouse suite.
Fancy.
Right. That's the secured creditors.
Okay.
These are the guys who lent money.
Right.
With like specific collateral backing it up.
So if the company goes bust, they're first in line to get paid.
Exactly.
Okay.
Now, operational debt is like way down in the basement. It's like less important.
At bottom of the barrel.
Yeah, and much less likely to get paid back in full.
During insolvency?
Right. Oof.
That's not good.
So even though it seems like all that money in those subscriber accounts should just go straight back to those people.
Yeah, it was their money to begin with.
Right. The NCLT basically said, nope, it's just part of the general pot of company assets.
We're going to divide it up among the creditors.
Yeah.
And the subscribers are stuck down there in the basement.
Right, with all the...
With the rest of the...
Yeah, with all the other, like...
unsecured creditors.
Yeah.
Hoping to get a little piece of the pie.
Exactly.
So what happened to TRAI? They weren't just going to let this slide, right?
Oh, no. They were not happy about this.
They were fighting for those subscribers.
Yeah. So they took their case to the next level. Up to the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal, or NCLA,
NCLAT.
to appeal the NCLT's ruling.
Going to overturn it.
Yeah, big move. And this is where TRAI made some really interesting arguments.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they challenged how we think about subscriber funds.
This is getting good.
Yeah, so they basically said Reliance shouldn't have been treating those subscriber funds as their own.
Okay.
Like they were arguing for this concept of a constructive trust,
Interesting.
meaning Reliance was just holding on to that money on behalf of the subscribers.
They weren't supposed to be using it for their own stuff.
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But how did the NCLA respond to that?
Well, that's what we're going to find out next.
This is a real cliffhanger.
But first, we need to take a quick break.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so we're back and ready to dive into this affidavit from the resolution professional, the RP.
Yeah, let's see what they found.
So they basically went like super deep into Reliance Telecom's practices for like refunding security deposits, to postpaid subscribers and like any leftover balances to prepaid people.
So basically how you'd get your money back if you were a Reliance customer.
Exactly. And what they found was not good.
Oh, no.
Well, these procedures were so complicated.
Really?
It was like jumping through hoops just to get your own money back.
Like what kind of hoops are we talking
Like multiple steps, all sorts of conditions, even time limits.
Wow.
It wasn't just like, you're a subscriber, you get your money back.
No automatic refunds.
No. So basically, Reliance was like making it as hard as possible for people to get their money back.
It seems that way.
Yeah. So I guess the question is like, why would they do that?
Right. What was their motivation?
Yeah.
Well, the affidavit didn't really get into Reliance's motives.
Oh, yeah?
Just laid out the facts of how convoluted these processes were.
Yeah.
But just looking at how complicated it was,
Yeah.
it does raise some questions.
Yeah, like what were they trying to do?
It's possible they were trying to control their cash flow.
Yeah, maybe discourage people from even bothering to request refunds.
Like if it's too much of a hassle, people might just give up.
Yeah, forget it. It's not worth it.
And remember, they were listing those subscriber dues as like other current liabilities in their financial statements.
Right.
Which kind of suggests they weren't treating those funds as something they were obligated to protect.
Yeah, like it was just part of their general pool of money.
Exactly.
Not like something they owed to specific people.
Right. It's like they were using those funds for their own operational needs.
Yeah.
Instead of treating them as like separate assets that belong to the subscribers.
Right.
Now, to be clear, this isn't necessarily illegal.
Right.
But it does raise some ethical questions.
For sure.
About how companies handle consumer money.
Yeah. Especially when they're in financial trouble.
Exactly. When every rupee counts.
Yeah, and this is like why we do these deep dives, right?
Absolutely.
To go beyond like the headlines and like figure out what's really going on.
Uncovering those hidden layers.
Yeah. It's easy to get lost in all the legal jargon.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, this case is about real people.
Right.
And their money.
Their hard-earned money.
Yeah. And that's why TRAI's arguments were so interesting.
Right. They were really fighting for those subscriber rights.
Yeah.
Within this whole complex framework of the IBC.
Yeah, basically saying subscriber funds should be treated differently.
More protection than just regular company debt.
Exactly.
Which makes sense.
But the NCLAT ultimately decided to uphold the IBC's power in this situation.
So they sided with the broader insolvency process.
Yeah, they argued that like creating exceptions for specific types of debt could undermine the whole purpose of the IBC.
Which is to provide a clear process for handling these cases.
Right, so it's like they had to choose between potentially protecting subscribers in this specific case and upholding this like bigger principle of having a consistent insolvency system.
It's a tough call.
Yeah, it's a tough spot to be in.
Absolutely.
But it's important to understand that the NCLAT wasn't saying subscriber funds are unimportant.
Right.
Or that they don't deserve protection.
They were focused on making sure the IBC works as intended.
Right. Like as a predictable framework for resolving insolvency.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's like the legal side of
The
things.
legal framework.
But let's talk about what this ruling actually means in the real world.
Okay.
What are the implications for subscribers of other companies that might be facing insolvency down the line?
Yeah, that's the big question.
It's a big question.
And it's definitely something to be concerned about.
Yeah, this case shows that subscriber funds aren't always treated as separate protected assets.
It's a wake-up call.
Yeah, like if a company goes bankrupt, your money could get caught up in the insolvency proceedings.
And you might not get it all back.
Yeah. So it's like a subscriber beware situation.
In a way, yes.
But it also highlights a bigger issue.
Which is?
Are the current consumer protection laws strong enough when it comes to insolvency?
Right. Are there enough safeguards in place for subscriber funds? Exactly.
Yeah.
Should regulators like TRAI have more power to protect consumers in these situations?
These are important questions.
Yeah, we need to be thinking about this stuff.
Absolutely. This case has really opened up a can of worms.
It's like we started with this question about refunds and fines. And now we're talking about like the fundamental rights of consumers.
And the balance of power between corporations and individuals.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's complex.
So I think we've given you a lot to think about.
Hopefully this deep dive has been informative.
Yeah, and maybe even a little bit unsettling.
Yeah, but that's the reality of this situation.
Yeah. So now we want to turn the question to you, our listener.
What do you think?
What do you think should be done to make sure subscribers are treated fairly in these kinds of situations?
It's a question worth pondering.
And maybe even discussing with your elected officials.
Public awareness is key.
Yeah, because ultimately, policies are shaped by people like you.
So speak up, make your voice heard.
And if you want to dig even deeper into this case,
We've got you covered.
we've got a list of resources in the show notes.
Check them out.
Don't hesitate to explore further.
Knowledge is power.
And that's what the deep dive's all about,
Equipping you with the information you need.
to navigate this crazy world.
Exactly.
So thanks for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
And until next time, stay curious. Okay, so we've gone through all this stuff.
A lot of information.
Yeah, all these legal twists and turns.
Mhm.
We've heard from like TRAI and the NCLT and the NCLAT.
It's a complex case for sure.
Yeah, so like what's the big takeaway here for our listeners? What do you really need to walk away understanding?
Well, if we zoom out and look at the big picture,
Yeah.
this case really shows that subscriber funds,
Yeah.
they weren't treated as protected assets, like separate from the company's own money.
Okay.
The court basically put more emphasis on the IBC,
Right.
which is meant to streamline the insolvency process.
Yeah. But that's kind of unsettling, right?
Yeah.
Like, does this mean subscribers are just out of luck if a company they do business with goes bankrupt?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
And this case definitely highlights the risks.
Yeah.
I mean, consumers need to be aware of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you should really understand the terms and conditions of your service agreements.
Mm-hmm.
Keep an eye on the financial health of the companies you do business with.
Right.
And just think about what could happen if those companies go insolvent.
Yeah. So it's like a subscriber beware situation.
In a way,
Yeah.
yeah. But it also raises a bigger question.
Okay. What's that?
Are current consumer protection laws enough when it comes to insolvency?
Okay.
Like, should there be specific rules for subscriber funds?
Mm-hmm.
Should regulators like TRAI have more power to step in and protect consumers?
Yeah. These are some big questions
They are.
that deserve more attention.
Absolutely.
But this deep dive, I think, has given everyone listening a lot to think about.
Hopefully a deeper understanding of the issues at play.
Yeah, we started with this seemingly simple question about refunds and fines.
Yeah.
And we ended up in this complex discussion about consumer rights and corporate power.
It's all interconnected.
Yeah. And it all goes back to this tension
Mm.
between protecting consumers
Right.
and making sure companies can restructure.
And potentially recover from financial trouble.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So where do we draw the line?
Yeah, where's the balance?
What are the
Yeah.
trade-offs we're willing to make?
It's not easy.
No, it's not easy at all.
So we're going to leave you with one final question to think about.
Yeah.
What do you think should be done to ensure subscribers are treated fairly in these situations?
That's a big question.
It is, but it's important.
Yeah, maybe talk about it with your friends,
With your family.
with your elected officials.
Public awareness is crucial for change.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, that's it for this episode of The Deep Dive.
Thanks for joining us,
We hope you learned something new.
and that you'll keep asking these tough questions.
Until next time, stay curious and keep learning.